I lost my best friend. It was very hard. And so about 6 months later, 9 months later, man, I remember waking up from my bed and I was walking past my brother's room and I heard his voice inside of his room. And this must have been 3, 4 in the morning. It's one of those classic horror kind of scenarios where you're walking past a room, there's nothing in there. And I remember lightly hearing his voice and he was saying, I'm here, I'm here. And I remember stopping right in front of the room and looking in and I'm seeing the moonlight kind of shine through the room, type of thing. It's like pretty pitch black darkness.
Miltyverse launching in 3, 2, 1.
Ryan Joseph Murphy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Ryan, I asked you to come on here after I saw your horror show. I listened to a couple of episodes and now this is in my rotation.
Awesome.
Because it's pretty awesome, honestly. I really did like Toothless. That was a real fun one. I listened to First Date and I'm going to be listening to Leviathan next. So I kind of put things in a weekly rotation. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, man. This is great. I sincerely appreciate being able to talk about the show with you, and I'm so happy that you're liking what you're hearing so far. That's awesome.
I saw that you had some other, horror credits out there. Is this something that you've been working with for a while?
Yeah, not to be confused with that other Ryan Murphy that's out there. The guy
I was confused by that.
Yeah, the guy who created American Horror Story and Glee and a bunch of other big shows. Yeah, so the thing is, I'm a massive horror fan. I've been a massive horror fan for most of my life. You can probably see right now, there's a Tales from the Crypt poster behind me in my apartment. I absolutely love horror. It's my favorite genre by far. I love anthology horror. Anthology horror for me is something that I've just loved my entire life. I am a massive Twilight Zone fan. That's my favorite show of all time. The original that Rod Serling created.
Oh yeah, the old black and white.
The old black and white. I've seen every episode a billion times. I love that show so much. I can watch it every day. It's like warm milk for me. It just puts me in a state of calm and ease. And then Tales from the Crypt is probably my second favorite anthology show of all time. And obviously that ran on HBO during the 90s. And it was kind of like I would argue, probably the most successful horror anthology of all time, just from a straight horror perspective. And, they tried recently to reboot it with M. Night Shyamalan coming on, and that unfortunately did not happen. But that, obviously, the comic, the TV show, all of that stuff, it's just a classic. I love anthology horror. It's my preferred style. I just love the fact that horror is so versatile, that it can showcase so many different types of stories. And I think anthology horror is the thing that kind of does that so well. There's always a bunch of other horror anthologies I love, like Trick or Treat is another great one if you've ever seen that one. I watch that one every Halloween time. There's Creep Show, which was like kind of like a pseudo Tales from the Crypt homage before Tales from the Crypt. There was Tales from the Dark Side. I grew up with Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps. They're all great. I love them all. So,
oh, dude, you're just speaking my language right now. It's probably like 1993-ish, whenever Tales from the Crypt used to come on Fox late at night. There was a TV by my bed, and I would sit down on the floor, and I'd like cover up. I'd be terrified, but I'd love it. I think I was more scared that my mom would come in my room and catch me watching it than I was of the show.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember growing up, and if you remember when Nickelodeon was doing Nick at Night.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I remember when that intro would come on, and it'd be like, wanna, and then, you see the boat creaking, and then the door slowly goes, and then the little girl's like, like that little creepy laugh. And, it's just, it's iconic, man. And that's the thing, is that horror anthologies, I think, for many of us who were kids in the 90s, were a really regular thing. I mean, they were on TV all the time. We were watching them. I mean, I remember reading the Goosebumps books when I was a kid, and all those covers instantly transported me to an imagination. And then I remember, Tales from the Crypt, when I saw that when I was like 7, 8 years old, I was scared shitless, man. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing ever. Even though the Crypt Keeper himself is so fun, the show itself, when there was gore, it was gore. I mean, you really saw some heinous acts of evil in that show. And it was just...
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I watched that show mostly for the Crypt Keeper. Being so young, I was probably about the same age as you. I'm 40 now. I was like, why isn't he a character in the show more? Like, why don't we see more of the Crypt Keeper? My papa liked to watch Jason movies and stuff like that. So I'd sit in his lap and watch it, cover my eyes when it got scary, but I wouldn't watch it by myself, but I'd watch it with him. And then there was this one time whenever, I don't even know how old I was, but they had one of those bootleg copies of The Goonies.
Oh yeah, classic.
So it's on a SP extra long VHS, and then right after that, you've got Evil Dead 2.
Oh, I mean, come on, you're talking about horror royalty now.
I'm like 6 years old, I don't know, a little kid, and I'm at their house, and they've let me watch The Goonies, and I probably forgot forgotten that I'm watching this movie. Don't really know what's on it behind that because they probably don't even watch it. I'm the only one that uses it to watch the Goonies. And then it keeps rolling, and all of a sudden I see, and it must have gotten recorded over as well, because I see this naked body with no head running around, and I'm like, what is going on?
Dude, it's so funny because growing up too, I used to watch a lot of Sci-Fi Channel when Sci-Fi Channel was playing a lot of these movies. And man, I used to watch all these horror movies on Sci-Fi Channel. I was watching Phantasm, and I was watching Lord of Illusions and Hellraiser and all this stuff. And dude, I was growing up and I was like traumatized. I was like, I can't believe I'm watching this shit on like basic cable and watching all this stuff. And man, it's so funny how it just etches yourself in your brain. And then you're going to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and all these video stores, and you're seeing all the covers on the on the wall of all these stuff, and you're just, I don't know if you remember Dead Alive, the one that Peter Jackson did, but there's this thing of the woman, and she has to like, and she's like, it's like this very visceral, disgusting horror cover. And man, I just love this stuff so much.
My favorite part of that one's the lawnmower.
Oh yeah, you kidding me? That scene's iconic. You get the lawnmower, and
I was screaming in laughter. I didn't watch it until I was in my 20s, I think, maybe a little younger, but I was a little older by the time I saw that. So yeah,
it's absolutely classic, iconic horror stuff there. And for me, I think I'm a little bummed at the current state that we're in a little bit for anthology horror. We have tons of horror movies. There's tons of great horror movies, and a lot of it is very good. I think the thing I'm more bummed about is the fact that, again, Tales from the Crypt's been in like kind of legal trouble for the last 20 years, and that's why we haven't never gotten a revival of that show, which is so unfortunate.
That makes sense.
Because I think it would do so well in the current climate that we're in right now, which is like very kind of anthology guest stars appearing in episodes. You could have tons of great actors. I think it would be a hit again if they could ever get it, out of that legal world. But in the current state that we're in the horror genre world, there just isn't a lot of horror anthologies out there. They did a Creep Show revival on Shudder that was there for a couple of seasons. That was fun, but they were working on a pretty low budget, and they were really trying to make do with what they could. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Effectively, they went to kind of like a movie format, so that's like a real quick miniseries. It's not quite what we were growing up with. There's no Goosebumps anymore.
It's not the same vibe.
It's not the same vibe. And so for me, when I was wanting to do this show, I started originally with the idea that I wanted to actually make this a real show. And when Quibi, I don't know if you remember when Quibi was a thing, it was for the hottest of minutes, it was the thing. And
was that the one where you watched it in this like straight up and down, correct, but it was like 5 to 15 minutes long shows?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so, it was due to launch right kind of when the pandemic happened. And so when that happened, they launched it. But the problem is Quibi's entire kind of like hypothesis or thesis, if you will, was this idea that we as people are going to go watch the show as we're doing our daily tasks, right? So this idea that like, oh, hey, when we're out doing errands and stuff, we're going to be watching these quick little things, which in hindsight kind of looks better than what ended up happening to it, because I do think short form content in general has kind of jumped up in the way that we consume things and the way that we kind of have things in our daily life. But for Quibi, it completely went belly up. People were trapped inside their homes effectively, and they couldn't go outside and do anything. So you had to effectively watch everything on your TV, and you're just not going to watch this short form stuff on your TV. It's just not going to happen. And so that went belly up. But I'd been pitching my concept, and we did a little sizzle kind of thing for it, and I got some money together and was able to make these shorts. And so I did this concept called Welcome to the Horror Show. It was, again, like classic anthology where we, I had my character, Mr. Graves. We did all this makeup, introducing these short tales, and everyone would be like a minute and a half, and then they would end on a cliffhanger. So you'd have to go watch the next video and the next video and the next video. So that would be how it would be released. Fortunately, obviously, that didn't happen. I was just like, I love doing this stuff, and I love being able to tell these stories. And I got involved, again, another app where I'm just going to date myself here, but Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember Clubhouse too. For the hottest of minutes, that was like a huge app, and it was the ability for you to be able to talk to people online through voice. And so for a minute, it was a huge app, and there was tons of celebrities on it, and everyone's like, oh my God, Clubhouse is the coolest thing ever. We ended up doing live readings of some iconic horror films. I met Tori Spelling through that app. She actually was in Scream 2. So I met her, and I met a couple other people on that app that we got a little group together, and we did a live reading of Scream with sound and music. So she played Sidney Prescott. But I just learned kind of through doing this that I was like, oh, I really like audio storytelling. I did some more of this stuff on that app, and then I realized about a year later, I really want to do my own podcast, and I really want to do my own stories again and have them be where we can tell these great anthology horror stories, hopefully, with great actors and sound effects and music and the whole thing. We started doing that, and yeah, man, I'd never done a podcast, so the learning curve for me was hard at the beginning. So started slowly but surely kind of getting the hang of it and understanding what needed to be done. Flash forward to where we are now, and it's been 3 seasons of the show now. We're in the 3rd now. We're releasing over 100,000 downloads, which is awesome, on a podcast network at this point. And so it's been cool to see it just kind of slowly gain people who are really loving it and like actually message me, hey man, I love your show. This is so great. And there's people who want to write for it now. It's been a fun evolution to kind of see this thing start from where it has to kind of be where it's at now and to have this be consistent. And I think as creators, and I'm sure you know this too, the consistency really is the important thing of this. Consistently good, consistently compelling, consistently providing something that I think people are like, oh wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, something that I'm going to pay attention to for more than just a minute.
Yeah, 100%.
So you've got voice actors. It's not just a story. It's like listening to the old radio shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. The great thing has been interacting with the amount of incredible voice actors that I've been able to interact with. I mean, I'm an actor here in Los Angeles. I have an agent and stuff, and the amount of talent that you'll find that isn't big is astronomical in this world. It's safe to say that the talent we see on the big screen or on the small screen, whether it's television or what have you, it's not even close to the amount of talent that you'll actually find if you really start looking around. And so I've been able to work with just such incredible people in all of these episodes. When it comes to the show, I really try hard to fit the voice with the character. Just like in Tales from the Crypt and all these great anthology episodes, you want people that are kind of like they feel lived in. You don't have to do a lot of explaining for why this person is who they are or whatever. You just it's on and you just go, oh yeah, okay, I know exactly what type of character this is. So it skips that kind of initial beat. So
I like that. Just all of what you said. There's so many great creators that people never meet, never hear. I think that time is changing, and I think that the gatekeepers are kind of getting knocked out of the way because we have this format. Everybody that I meet is incredible that I invite to come on the show. I don't just ask anybody. They got to have something interesting to offer, like you say, good quality content every time, because I want people to be interested in what I have to offer for them to listen to and watch. But there's so many people out there like that Quibi thing that could totally be YouTube Shorts now.
100%. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is that I feel like you bring up a lot of stuff. I think that's kind of happening in this world, which is information is being digested faster than ever, right? And so it's like this thing where no matter where you are in any part of the world, you can access just all the information at a split second rate. I think what we're encountering too in the world of creativity is if you don't have something compelling to say or create or whatever, people will go find it elsewhere and they'll find it quickly. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. And so attention spans, I think, have gotten shorter, but at the same time, I think the quality of work that people put out has gotten higher. Right? Because I feel like there was a great, I'm trying to remember who it was who said this. It was an actor who said this, I believe. And I think it was actually, it might be Ben Affleck. Everyone talks about the younger generation and how they have no attention span. And he goes, but it's funny, when they find a show or a movie or something they really into, they will binge it all in 5 seconds because they're so into it. And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So it's not necessarily that they have low attention spans, it's that they have low attention spans for bad work, for bad art, right. You know what I'm saying? For art that doesn't interest them. As a person who is putting out their own material, you got to raise the bar on what people think they're going to listen to and why they're going to listen.
Yeah, so something I want to do eventually is I want to have this just be like a channel and then create different types of content, some shorts, some funny stuff, some like maybe serious stuff. I don't know yet. Different playlists with different types of content. Right now, I've seen shorts getting way more views than the long form. I realize it's because I'm just like a little mosquito scratching on people's skin right now. They don't know who I am. But when they get to know me, they're going to love it.
Yeah.
And they're going to love my guests. Do you know what I mean?
One of the things, too, I was going to say is that, when it comes to like long form content, right? And, I don't know if I consider myself long form because the episodes are usually about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So it's not like super long.
That's probably considered long form to most
at this
people
point. And so I think that the end of the day, though, is that, look, if you're creating something that is touching people in a way that they feel like is like, hey, this is giving me something insightful delightful. This is entertaining me. This is giving me something that I didn't know before. I think the sky's the limit for what people can do at this point in terms of being like you said, by themselves. Don't have to be with the studio. You don't have to be with any big players, and you can create something and kind of create your own community. And I think that's like an essential thing at this point for people.
You make a good point too, and I noticed this in your show is like it's about the art. You believe for that 20 minutes that you're in this world. Like I might be driving, I might be seeing all this other stuff, but I'm listening really intensely because these stories are compelling, and the actors that you have on there are really freaking good.
Thanks, man.
How did you decide that you were going to make it that kind of show, voice actors and whatnot? How did you get into that?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day with it, like I said, I had been able to hear a lot of different shows that I was kind of like researching to kind of do this. And I think in my journey of kind of wanting to do this, I was really looking at a lot of other shows and being like, what's making them successful, right? Like what's making people want to listen to these shows? And obviously you've got shows like No Sleep. The No Sleep podcast has been around forever. It has a huge subreddit, a huge fan base of people who love it. And they've been going for, I think now 10 to 12 years at this point. And they've got, hundreds of episodes. But people continue to listen to it because it is compelling. At the same time, there's also other shows in my kind of genre that I was listening to that I was like, okay, these are all horror anthologies. But the one thing they always lacked to me was I want this to be pulpy. I want this to be something that is like, it's like a comic book, right? Like you're grabbing it off the shelf, and especially with the art. The art of those EC comics and what Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show and all these other great anthologies did, it made it feel like it was a comic book kind of, right? It's like you're entering in a different world of this stuff. And there's something about the artwork that always spoke to me about like a certain aesthetic of feeling like, okay, yeah, that's like the world I really want this place to live in. And so and originally the artist that I got to work on these was an artist named Ghostly, who's fantastic, who does a lot of like comic book kind of retro art. And so I would be, writing some of these scripts and I'd be going to him and just saying, hey, can you mold me this? I'm going to give you an idea of what I like. And then you just go to races and you just make something. And the stuff I was getting back was great. And so that initial season, the artwork I feel like was getting progressively better as I'm figuring out like podcast imagery and stuff like that. And that's another thing too, man. I started this thing with 0 downloads. I had no podcast network. There was nothing attached to me. And I think, what I'd always heard from people was, if you want to start something, you just got to start it, right? You got to stumble and fall a little bit. It's not going to be perfect at the very beginning. And what I would say to a lot of people is, when it comes to creating and stuff, if you've got an idea in your head and you start to figure it out, it's not going to be perfect necessarily at the very moment that you start releasing something. But if you can stay with it and be consistent with it and figure out your voice as you go along with it, the quality of work will get better as you continue on. And it's okay to fail. I think that's the thing too for creators, man, for all of us. Failure is the only option. I didn't start off with a bunch of reviews. I didn't start off with anything. The first day I released an episode, I told my partner, I said, if I can get 100 downloads on this thing, I will be happy. And at this point, I'm getting over 1,000 within a couple of days of an episode. So it's like, it's just a slow growth. For many of us, man, it's like, it feels so daunting to be like, how do I go from 0 to whatever? The journey itself is kind of the thing that we all need to be like kind of thinking about. I think when we're creators, you can't think about, well, man, I'm not big enough. I don't have 10,000 downloads per episode. Don't think about it that way. Every single listener you get that likes what you do is a huge win. Just pile up those listeners. And so for me, getting the artwork better suited to what the show is, and then finding a bunch of my friends, like I said, I know so many actors here in Los Angeles that are so talented, and we're all looking for work. Like, all the time, we're auditioning for things, we're always wanting to do stuff. And for me, I was just like, contacting them and just saying, hey guys, I've written something. Would you be interested in voicing it for me? This will take, 30 to 60 minutes for me to direct you. Let me know. And they're all like, yeah, dude, of course, the script's great, whatever. And so I think the other thing too is that we get caught up with not wanting to ask people because we're afraid of rejection, right? We're afraid of turning us down. But you can't live in that world, man. You got to you got to believe in what you're doing. You got to talk to people and just be kind, dude. Like, I can't even stress enough about that. Be a good, kind person, and people will want to work with you. Like, I'm telling you, it's not as hard as people think it is. And I think that we get caught up in the nitty gritty of just being like, how am I going to do this and whatever. Now, look, I'm going to say this first, most. I don't do the sound for my show. I don't know how to do sound from a technical perspective. My sound guy is Brave Flanagan. He's fantastic. But what I do know is I know how to produce. And that was the thing that I do not do, is that I can organize and say, hey, I'm going to make sure the actors that I get for each episode, this is when we need their stuff by, getting the edit, this is when we need it to be done by, here's the artwork, this is what I want it to look like, and having a vision and having an idea of what that is. So I think it's Tarantino who said this. He goes, if you're going to be a director, you're not going to do every aspect of your movie. You're going to hire people that are going to be great people for your movie, because he's like, I don't pick out the costumes from my movie. My costume designer does. And then I just okay what they pick out. And it's the same thing when I think we rely on ourselves as creators, like having a really small but integral team, if you can get it, of a couple people to help you and be those people that can maybe do a task that you can't, I think it's just essential, man. Essential.
Anyone who's listening that wants to get started in content creation, this is the kind of stuff that they need to hear. And just the fact that you were willing to come on this show. I'm not a big podcast yet. I just recently got over 10,000 views on my shorts for the past 48 hours, you know what I mean?
No, and that's so cool. And here's the thing, man, and I really try to say this as well. The idea that you only need to go on shows that are big or talk, I mean, that's such a fallacy, man. So many of us are in the same boat of what we're trying to do. We're all trying to be able to use our voice to get out there, to talk to people, and to like have people say, hey, cool, this is really fun, I want to check this out. I think that you're doing the right thing too. And this is not easy, man. People, again, I think, have a skewed view of how this goes. First of all, it takes guts to come out and just do shows in general and be like, I'm going to put myself out there. Like, that's already number one thing. And the number two thing is I think it's the time, right? It's the time of taking your time out of your day and saying, hey, look, I'm going to devote an hour, 2 hours, whatever, to doing something that I'm trying to get better at. And I commend anyone for doing that. And like I said, as an actor, we're faced with rejection on a daily basis, my friend. Like a daily basis, I'm constantly told no. And you're not letting that deter you from what you want to pursue in life, because you're saying, hey, look, I want to do this because I love doing this, and this is what gives me passion. And if it gives you passion, you got to keep going. You got to run through the gate. You got to run through the door and just say, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm going to keep doing what I love to do.
I love that, man. That's kind of been the theme of what I've been doing here. I've been meeting incredible people. Like, I've got some incredible friends. Talk about him all the time. Jonathan Reels. He's on multiple episodes, and he will be for the rest of my life. He was my best friend in high school and still is. He was in The Walking Dead for an episode.
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
So like I already got that base of friendship of some people, but then I've met movie directors and I've met actors, met you, just different people that are doing incredible things. And what I've come to see happen is like some of that gap is getting bridged, and some of these people are actually meeting each other and networking together. Only good things can come of that, because eventually people will find each other and work together and make incredible art that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
No, it's such a great point. And that's the thing too, is that the world's so small, man. It feels big, it's small. The amount of people that I've met that are like one step away from people that I've wanted to meet is just, it's so small, man. And so that's the thing, is that, like I said earlier, there's no reason for anyone not to be kind in this world, right? Just say, hey, look, you're cool, I'm cool, we're all cool, right? The last like 5 years of my life, I really have tried to let my ego live at the door when it comes to all my stuff. And I feel like for so many of us, there's this sense that we have to be something that we're not. And I'm like, look, I don't know what I don't know. I'm not trying to be, I'm not, again, I'm not a technical person 99% of the time. Like, I understand some basic aspects of computers and social media and stuff, and I try to use that to my best benefit, but I'm not pretending over here to be some savant at sound design or anything like that. That's not what I do. The best things creatives can do is just to figure out, like, what am I really good at? And what is someone else really good at that can help me? When we do that and we really let our own egos fall away and say, hey, I'm going to be the best version of myself I can be. I'm not going to be everything, but I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. You start realizing, okay, then we can really start to work something here. And I love collaboration, man. I think collaboration is just the sauce that gives everything such a cool flavor. And you were asking me, a couple minutes ago about just, working with these voice actors. I couldn't do this show without them. That's the thing. It's like, I always tell them, I try to thank my voice actors always, every single episode by name, and have their whatever links to the IMDb and stuff. I want them to hopefully get work from this. Hopefully they can use something for their reel. Hopefully they can have something that's going to be able to be a great piece of material that they can go, oh yeah, cool. cool, I did this. This is going to help me, further on my journey. And then hopefully if anyone ever talks to me and says, hey, do you work with so-and-so? I can go, yep, they're amazing. Absolutely hire them. They're fantastic. At the end of the day, everything we do is a stepping stone to the next project, to meeting the next person, to doing the next thing. And I think it's never wise to lose sight of that. There's always value in meeting other contacts and meeting other people, because you just never know where it can lead to.
What is your favorite episode or piece that you've done with this show so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have a soft spot for the first episode, because that was the longest episode to produce. I probably recorded that episode like 10 times, not exaggerating. A good friend of mine, Dominic Oliver, did the voice actor work in Bullet, and he's done so many feature films as gangsters and stuff like that. He actually read initially for Tony Soprano when they were doing the original Soprano auditions. Obviously didn't get the role, but he's fantastic. The other one is the one you haven't listened to yet, and that's Leviathan. I love Leviathan. I love space horror. Space horror for me is just so fun, like Alien and Event Horizon, and I really, really dig that stuff. I think it's so much fun. I would say I did an episode this past season. For the first episode, it was called Corporate Creature, and I really loved that one too, because I don't know if you remember the X-Files or how much you remember, but there's a really iconic episode of the X-Files where this guy thinks he's seen bugs in an office being masquerading as humans, and then he murders like this guy, and they take him in, and he's like, the agents slowly figure out that, like, oh, maybe he's not lying, maybe they actually are bugs. And so I was like, oh, this is fun. I love this idea of a woman stumbling upon her boss late at night and he's eating human flesh. I love this idea. But yeah, so I think for me, whenever I think of these episodes, I'm always having an idea in my head. The first one, for some reason, I was on a Sopranos kick, and I was like, I really want to do a mobster horror story. Like, we don't have enough of that. Like, we don't have enough mobster horror stories. And so I really wanted to do that. And every time I think about when I write, I'm always thinking about not only what's the sound that's going to come in, right? Like in that episode, it's a lot of phone stuff that I wanted to play with, where I'm like, oh, he's talking to somebody on the phone. Every episode for me is always, what's the sound we're playing with in this episode? There's an episode called Bump in the Night where there's a metronome, and I'm like, and that metronome has a very, that like, it has a very like rhythmic sound to it. And so I love music, and I'm always
Telltale Heart kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm always thinking about like, how can I incorporate this into the episode? What's the through line of why this sound is in here? What is it saying about the character? What is it saying about the circumstance? And so that's a lot of the times when I think about this stuff, that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm writing.
I love it, man. Your horror show is on anywhere that you can stream a podcast?
100%.
Is it on YouTube?
It's not on YouTube. Yeah, that's the one place it's not. So, and I'll tell you why. As a podcaster that runs ads on his episode, I can't do the same on YouTube. And so there's no monetary value for me to be able to do that unless I grow it to a certain point where I get monetized. And look, the hard part with doing an audio only show in today's world is that I would love to have more video content to be able to put that out and be like, hey, here's video marketing and stuff. The problem is that, I don't know how compelling it is for people to watch a static image and be like, I'm going to watch this image and listen to this ad. I'm just not entirely sure. But when it comes to Apple and Spotify and all these other things, it's like, hey, cool. On Spotify, we're nearing 3,000 followers on there. So I know people are finding it, and Spotify's throwing it out there. And I think the hard part is that, again, when it comes to YouTube, it's just a static image. And I'm like, I don't know how compelling that is. So,
no, don't do a static image. Like, get you an AI guy that can create these little scenes that goes with the story.
I see. I would, my idea, what I would love to do, and I've talked to some of my, my two producers about this. I would love to commission somebody to do actual animated stuff, like actually create an animated show of sorts. Tales from the Crypt was an animated TV show at one point as well, and I was like, man, that would be so cool. But it's coming down the line. It's a thing where I believe like when it's there, I think it will be asked for by the listeners. I'm a really big proponent too of the listeners tell you when they want more, right? I've been getting more people signing up to my Patreon, but it's like I haven't done anything different, but they're wanting more. And so it's like, that's the thing. You as a creator, like you said, you provide something And when it gets to a certain point, and I don't know if you know who Jack Rysider is. He's the guy who creates Darknet Diaries. He's really phenomenal. I love reading his stuff about podcast marketing and stuff, but he's a very big proponent of your show will grow the way it needs to grow. And people will, when they find it, they're going to tell you when they want more of it. They're going to tell you when they want to be subscribers and what they are. They're going to tell you these things, and it's about you listening to them and figuring out like, okay, you guys want more of this. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Like I'm gonna do that. So I'm sure it'll come at some point.
Folks that are listening, you need to go and check out your horror show because you're going to love it, especially if you listen this far. You obviously must love horror things because that's what we've been talking about. You said that you had a little story you could share just to kind of give us a taste.
Let me share this quick horror story that happened in my own life. So when I was younger, my brother actually passed away. So I was 5 years old. My brother was 3. There's a very rare disease that you can get with chickenpox. And this was before the chickenpox vaccine was mandated in California. And so for some reason, we're talking 1 to 5% of the population is ever going to get this. It's one of those diseases that if you get it with chickenpox, you're dead within 2 days. It's extremely hard to detect.
Wow.
Yeah. And so obviously family devastated. I lost my best friend. It was very hard. And so about 6 months later, 9 months later, man, I remember waking up from my bed and I was walking past my brother's room and I heard his voice inside of his room. And this must have been 3, 4 in the morning. It's one of those classic horror kind of scenarios where you're walking past a room, there's nothing in there, and you can just, I remember lightly hearing his voice and he was saying, I'm here. And I remember stopping right in front of the room and looking in, and I'm seeing the moonlight kind of shine through the room, type of thing. It's like pretty pitch black darkness. And I was going to my parents' room because I was scared and I wanted to lay with them. And I remember walking in and I remember hearing that voice and seeing a silhouette outline through the moonlight of him. And I remember just being oddly calm, but still very scared. Now, I'm sure people will interpret this and be like, oh, you're just experiencing a traumatic situation and you probably just imagine it in your head. But yeah, it was one of those things that's always stuck with me because I don't know entirely if ghosts are real, but what I do know is that I believe that we all leave imprints in this world, and whether or not that imprint is something that is like actually physical or actually like there, it might not be, but I believe there are emotional imprints that are left in this world, and whether or not we see them or we ever experience them is one thing. But I think that was one of the things that's always stuck with me because I went on obviously the rest of my life, and I ended up having another sibling, but my brother was definitely my best friend at the time, and so losing him was really hard. But I always remember that and feel like he's always going to be the person that's going to be with me and wanting me to keep going and wanting me to keep doing great things. And so it's just one of those things that I don't know if it's truly scary, but it was one of those very kind of, this is. I feel like I'm really experiencing something supernatural right now, potentially. So yeah. So
no, man, I absolutely believe that there is other dimensions, and I don't believe that when our body dies that we die. I think we keep going, and who's to say that we can't pass through that dimension just for a second or two? Maybe he wanted to see you.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? Like I said, it's like again, the idea of like the ghosts of like, whoa, is probably not true. I don't think anyone's ever maybe truly seen that. But like you said,
right.
Maybe it is a thing where there's an energy. There's something that is there inside of the world that is like, yeah, your physical presence might be gone, but your energy is left, and there is something still there. And so, yeah, I remember that extremely vividly. And it's like I said, it was one of those scenes where you're in a horror movie where someone's standing at the base of a room and they're looking in and they're seeing a loved one. And it was one of those things where I remember in my head being like, that was real, right? Like I didn't just imagine that, and it's one of those things where it's hard sometimes to know always if your mind is playing tricks on you or if this is really happening. But it's always stayed with me. So
yeah, I mean it's kind of like a real life Sixth Sense situation.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. What about
Absolutely.
you? Any horror stories from you?
Nothing super weird has ever really happened, except One time I was sitting in a room and it didn't scare me, but it was, yeah, it's weird. I guess it's weird. It wasn't weird to me, but it was really quiet and I saw this white light and it just like went through the door. And I don't know, it didn't bother me. I don't know. It didn't normally, like if I had watched a horror movie and heard a bump or something, I would have been afraid and ran, you know, it didn't scare me. So I guess I never equated that as being weird or anything, but yeah, that did happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. It's, look, my partner, she's had a couple of experiences that she swears, supernatural. And so it's like, that's the thing is we, in life, I think we come across some of these moments and it's okay. I don't know if I have a true explanation for that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. And so it's not, it's not necessarily straight X-Files where it's like, oh, well, this is definitely this, but you have some explanations where you just yourself are like, I don't know how I can explain that.
You can't explain it. No, there's this thing, there's a phenomenon near here where I live. I live near Johnson City, Tennessee. And this thing called the Brown Mountain Lights in the Linville Gorge. And I really want to go see that. I have young children, so it's kind of hard to like arrange it because my wife also wants to see it. And they're kind of scared. We mentioned it one day, like, you want to go see some lights? Like, what are you talking about? Lights like aliens, like, or something. So, no, we don't want to do that. It's like, okay, we won't terrify you.
And I can't even imagine too, because I've, so many reports, so many things of UFOs and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, is it the government just testing, planes and
some drones?
Yeah, they're testing stuff, or is it something real? I mean, who knows? That's the thing. So,
yeah, it's crazy. My friend Dean Atkinson got me to listen to the Mothman Prophecies book.
Oh yeah.
I'm like an hour away from the end of it, and it finally started all making sense why it's called the Mothman Prophecies. So is it really just entities from another dimension just playing with us? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. I love that movie too. That movie's great. The one.
Yeah. Have you listened to or read the book?
No, I haven't. I should.
You should, because the movie is literally only about one tiny piece of the story in the entire book. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Definitely.
Cool.
If you're into that kind of stuff, I would highly recommend. It's a good listen if you have to drive through traffic or whatever. Just like put it on and let it go. So I highly recommend that. Is there anything you want to tell everybody?
Yeah. Look. Again, my name is Ryan Joseph Murphy. I create the show, Your Horror Show. I'll show the T-shirt off there. If you like Tales from the Crypt, if you like anthology horror, Are You Afraid of the Dark, that type of thing, I think you're going to love this show. We are on our third season right now. We've got about 36 episodes, I believe, for you to check out. Each one's about 20-ish minutes. Everyone has a different kind of thematic theme. So if you're not into the first episode and you want to skip to the 10th, feel free to do that. Hopefully you like it. And if you do and you want to get episodes a week early, you can try to check out our Patreon. It's $5 a month for that. We do episodes a week early without ads. So if you're not into ads and want to do that, feel free. Otherwise, man, check us out at Your Horror Show at all social media if you want to follow us. And hopefully some of your listeners will be interested in it. So
thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. This was an absolute pleasure.
Hey, and thanks for watching. I also want to take a moment to say thank you to the founding Milty Knot, Mark Hazy. Thanks for joining the Patreon, brother. And if you want to join the Patreon and help me to keep this going, then follow the link in the description. Y'all have a good day. I'll see y'all next week.